What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Infamous Ghost Money, and in this video, we're going to take a look into Brainard Wedgeworth of Tallahassee, Florida, a romance scammer who perfected a scheme in which he manipulated over 20 victims into giving him over $1 million in the span of nearly 5 years. We're going to look into what romance scams are and how exactly Wedgeworth did his thing in conning his victims, and of course, some things you could do and red flags to look out for to defend against scammers like Wedgeworth. So if you find any value in the video, remember to hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel to catch more of my content on financial fraud and stay one step ahead of these fraudsters. Alright, let's get right into the information. In today's day and age, online dating is the go-to way for single people to put themselves out into the dating scene. Using apps and websites like Tinder, Plenty of Fish, Christian Mingle, OkCupid, you name it. Everyone is sliding in each other's DMs in hopes of finding their future soulmate. But our desires for love are also creating opportunities for social engineering, and as a result, helping many scammers make millions of dollars through romance scams. According to FBI.gov, romance scams occur when a criminal adopts a fake online identity to gain a victim's affection and trust. The scammer then uses the illusion of a romantic or close relationship to manipulate and/or steal from the victim. The criminals who carry out romance scams are experts at what they do and will seem genuine, caring, and believable. With that being said though, many people may feel they are above getting caught up in a romance scam, especially when you hear all the seemingly outrageous stories on how these victims are impacted. But believe it or not, according to the IC3 2021 cybercrime report, romance scams came in at third place with over $950 million in losses being reported in 2021. Even more shocking is romance scam losses are on a steady uptrend in the last 3 years, as losses have doubled from 2019 when it was reported to be $475 million. And mind you, these numbers are only what was actually reported. It may be much more. So clearly, as informed and aware we all may think we are, many people are still getting caught up in these fraudulent love entanglements. Which leads us to today's case. Friday, November 5th, 2021. Brainard Wedgeworth of Tallahassee, Florida was indicted in connection with a romance scam involving online dating websites. According to the paperwork related to Wedgeworth's case, he perfected a social engineering scheme that caused his victims to literally hand him a total of over $1 million. And this Casanova scammer would nearly follow the same playbook with every victim he connected with. First, he would sign up with one of the many dating apps or websites, and in all the profiles he created, he would falsely claim to be a doctor using various aliases. Also, unlike many other romance scammers, Wedgeworth would include a real picture of himself with these profiles, which would make his victims believe he was legit, especially when he would speak with them over video chat. Once he would connect with a victim, he would sweet talk them and gain their trust, pushing the puppy love cycle to its peak, and it'll be at this point he would drop the bomb on them. Wedgeworth would claim to these victims in one way or another that he wanted to have a life with them and further gain their trust by offering to pay off all their debt. Many of these women would jump on the opportunity of potentially changing their financial lives and would give up all their personal and bank info so he could process the debt payments. And I mean, why would he lie? He's a doctor. In reality, he was using this lie to gain access to their credit cards and steal their information. You see, Wedgeworth would trick the victims into believing their debts were really paid off because he would make the payments electronically via an ACH payment using non-existent bank information or accounts that had little to no money in them. When payments are made this way, it may appear as a successful payment and you'll even receive a confirmation number. But it requires several business days for banks to completely debit and process an ACH payment. And during this interim period, these victims will be fooled into thinking they just met a man who walked right out of heaven, which would cause them to further lower their defenses. At this point, Wedgeworth would begin to milk his victims for all their money, even going as far as getting them to take out extra credit cards and loans in order to give it right to him. He would also have the victims purchase him expensive jewelry on credit, which he would then sell within days of it being purchased for nearly half the price in an attempt to hide the true identity of the stolen funds. And once the bogus payments he made towards their debts were denied, he would either be long gone or make further lies in an attempt to continue to string along and cash out his victims. You know, I truly hope there's a special place in hell for people like Wedgeworth. The case lists all the victims he impacted with the details on how he finessed them, such as on August 2019 when he would meet a victim identified as SD from Texas using the dating app Hinge. Wedgeworth would falsely claim to be Dr. Brian Christopher Williamson, a surgeon from New York who attended Harvard and was a member of the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. Shortly after connecting with SD on August 17, 2019, while texting her, he would send her a fake pay statement that showed homeboy was bringing in over $500,000 annually. He would follow up the text with the statement saying, "We can afford for you not to work." He would proceed to offer to pay off her rent, student loans, and credit cards, but in order for him to do it, he would need her bank login details and personal info to process the payments. She would agree to give up the details, and just like that, he would pay off all her debts. A few days later, on August 19, 2019, he would fly out to ATL to meet with SD to celebrate his birthday, which of course happened to be a lie. They would link up at Lenox Mall and he would ask SD to purchase him a $50,000 yellow gold Rolex Oyster from Mayors for his birthday, and he promised he would pay her back. She would agree to buy the watch for him, and I mean, why not? It was the least she could do. This man just paid off all her debts. He has to be good for the money. Once the watch was purchased, he would send his watch reselling plug a picture of the watch and negotiate a $30,000 resale price for it. Once they got the price locked in, he would lie to SD, telling her one of his patients was decompensating and he had to return to New York immediately. He would proceed to jet off and leave, but he would go directly to his watch plug and resell the watch for $30,000 the same day. You would think he would stop there, but no. The next day, he would reach out to SD and tell her he left his wallet in Atlanta and ask her to loan him $8,500, as well as $2,600 the day after on August 21st. Then on August 22nd, SD would receive a notification from her billers that all the payments that were made several days earlier were rejected, and of course, Dr. Brian Christopher Williamson would be long gone. So just like that, in a span of 4 days, he got this victim for $60,000. Another one of Wedgeworth's many victims is identified as CH from Alabama. Wedgeworth would meet CH on Plenty of Fish on October 2018 and immediately get to work on running his Casanova play, falsely stating he was once again Dr. Brian Anderson from New York, who was transitioning to Alabama, and he graduated from Harvard. He would build rapport with her by sharing fake memories with CH about his times with the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, which would further gain her trust since she was also part of the same sorority. Once he fully gained her trust, he would take it to the next level and tell her he was looking for a wife and butter her up all the way, and hit her with the offer of a lifetime and paying off her debts, which included her mortgage and student loans. I guess CH was suspicious because the paperwork calls out that Wedgeworth would get on a 3-way call with her debtors and make the payments, allowing her to know homeboy was the real deal. She heard it herself. She would be sold in that instant, and Wedgeworth would ask her for her personal and banking information to pay off the rest of her credit cards, which, similar to all the other victims, she would hand right over. From this point, Wedgeworth would tell CH he was a Rolex connoisseur and suggest that they go out to purchase Rolexes for her and her sister. The next day, they would head to the jewelry store and he would convince her to open a store credit card to purchase a Rolex Submariner and a Rolex Deep Sea for $27,000. He would reassure her for making the purchase by letting her know he would have his personal assistant wire her $150,000 to cover the purchases and some, cause you know he got it like that. Finally, he would tell her since he recently paid off all her bills, he was unable to access his account and would ask her to loan him $10,000, a loan that he promised he would pay back. CH didn't have the money, so in order for her to get it, she would take out 2 cash advances against her credit cards for the 10 G's and hand it right over to him. At this point, he would bounce, and several days later, so would the fugazi payments he made towards her bills, leaving her out nearly $40,000. And finally, one of the first victims called out in Wedgeworth's scheme is identified as Dr. KWH from Tallahassee, Florida, who he would meet on Elite Singles in October 2016 while he was incarcerated for a previous fraud conviction in Georgia. According to the case paperwork, Wedgeworth would somehow get his hands on a cell phone, which allowed him to create an account with the dating site, and he would falsely claim to be Dr. Brian Adams, a surgeon from Alabama. Like all the other victims, he would sweet-talk her and offer to pay off all her debts so he could gain access to her personal information, and she would agree to give it to him. According to the paperwork, while still incarcerated, he would use her credit card information to purchase Christmas gifts for other females that he was also scheming online, as well as use her address to accept deliveries of items he would purchase using stolen information of other individuals. Dr. KWH would eventually discover Wedgeworth's real name and even find news reporting him as the Casanova scammer for scamming women. And get this, he would tell her he was doing undercover work for the federal government, investigating correction officers and people in the Georgia prison system, which was the reason why he was currently locked up. Apparently, she would believe him because when he was released from prison in February 2017, he would move in with her and they would even get married on April 10th, 2017. Throughout the years of their marriage, he would obviously continue running his romance schemes, but he would also use her accounts and identity as a money mule to accept the cash he would receive from his victims, lying to her about the true origins of the payments. Now, these examples are just a smidge of all the ways he lied and took advantage of his victims, and unfortunately enough, as stated earlier, this is an extremely common method of defrauding people despite how ridiculous it may sound. Wedgeworth would plead guilty to 25 counts to his romance scheme on May 19, 2022, and he can receive up to 100 years in prison. He is scheduled to be sentenced on August 8th, 2022, and honestly, I hope they throw homeboy under the jail for his actions. So in conclusion, when it comes to meeting people online, there are some key things we could take away from this case. First, like I always say, if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. If someone is offering you money or anything of great value online after only knowing them for a brief amount of time, that is a huge red flag, no matter how tempting it may be. The chances are they will only be doing this to gain access to your information, or they could be attempting to use you as a money mule to assist in money laundering. Whenever someone asks you to accept cash in your account, if you really want to help this person, help them in opening an account in their own names to accept the money. If they give you any pushback on that, that's a clear red flag that something probably isn't right with that money they're trying to receive, which is why they don't want to accept it in their own names. Next, online scammers such as Wedgeworth are really good at making up lies to defend why they can or cannot do something. Such as in Wedgeworth's case, he would commonly tell his victims he had fraud on his account, so his money was frozen, or some other bogus lie in the name of getting his victims to loan him money. Never give money to anyone you do not have an extensive history with. And even when it comes to people you do have that history with, I'ma tell you like my mother told me, don't ever loan someone something you aren't willing to give away, because there's always the possibility you will not get that money back. And finally, take full advantage of Google to thoroughly research people you are getting involved with. This is especially relevant when it comes to online dating. Although it isn't 100% because a scammer can easily create an online identity, it will still be useful in spotting inconsistencies in someone's story about who they are, which could be useful in determining if you're dealing with a trustworthy person or not. But there you have it. That's the story on Brainard Wedgeworth, aka the Casanova scammer. I hope you found some value in the video. If you did, remember to hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel to catch more of my content on financial fraud and how to stay one step ahead of these fraudsters. Alright, peace.